Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. Thank you so much for joining me again. My name is Shirley, and today I want to tell you a slow, simple, easy to understand story about something very old, something very important, something that changed the world completely. Today's topic is why ancient bureaucrats invented writing. Yes, writing. The thing we all use every day. The thing I am using right now to speak to you. But thousands of years ago, humans didn't have writing. They didn't have letters, they didn't have books, they didn't even have numbers written down. So why did humans suddenly start writing? Was it because of poetry? Was it because people wanted to write love letters? No, not really. The real reason is much simpler and, honestly, a little funny. Writing started because of bureaucrats, people who worked with records, taxes, and lists. People who needed to keep track of things. Today, I'm going to tell you the whole story, slowly, clearly, and naturally, like a friend talking to you on a peaceful morning. So sit back, relax, maybe grab a cup of tea, and let's go on a trip to the ancient world. Life before writing. Imagine this. You are living about 6,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia. There are no cities yet, just small villages and farms. People grow wheat. People herd sheep and goats. People trade food with neighbors. And everything, absolutely everything, is remembered in the mind. Nothing is written. No papers, no tablets, no lists, no receipts. If someone says, "Hey, I gave you 3 bags of grain last week," you just have to trust them or argue with them. Life depended on memory. And let me tell you, humans are not always good at remembering things, especially numbers. So sometimes people forgot, sometimes people lied, sometimes people argued. And as villages grew bigger, and farms grew larger, and trade became more complicated, memory was not enough. People needed help. They needed a way to keep track of things. The first step. Clay tokens. So, what did ancient people do? Before writing, they used tokens. Little clay shapes, circles, cones, small balls, made from mud. A small ball meant 1 sheep. A cone meant 1 jar of oil. A disc meant 1 measure of grain. Simple. Very simple. If a farmer brought 5 sheep to the temple, the scribe would take 5 tokens, 5 little clay balls, and store them in a clay envelope. This envelope was called a boule. So now the farmer couldn't lie, and the priest couldn't lie. The tokens were the truth. It was the first kind of receipt. But soon problems appeared. Imagine trying to count thousands of sheep using tiny clay balls. You would have buckets and buckets full of tokens. It was too much. So, someone had an idea. A brilliant idea. Instead of putting the tokens inside the envelope, Why not press the tokens on the outside? Press a sheep token, the shape appears. Press it again, 2 sheep. Press it again, 3. Suddenly, the envelope itself became a record. This was the beginning of symbols. And symbols led to writing. The birth of real writing. Around 3300 BCE, in ancient Sumer, something amazing happened. Scribes began drawing the symbols without the tokens, just drawing the shape directly on a clay tablet. Now, the clay tablet itself was the record. No more envelopes, no more tokens, just marks. And these marks slowly became more complex, more organized, more, official. And this was the beginning of Cuneiform, one of the first writing systems in the world. Now, here is the funny part. The first writing was not poetry. It was not stories. It was not beautiful literature. It was lists. Lists of sheep, lists of grain, lists of taxes, lists of workers, lists of deliveries. Writing began as accounting. It began because of bureaucrats. It began because someone needed to make sure no one was lying about how many goats they had. Not very romantic, right? But very practical. Bureaucrats, temples, and taxes. Let's talk about these ancient bureaucrats for a moment. They worked inside big temples that also acted like banks and offices. People brought their goods to the temple: grain, fish, sheep, baskets, tools, and the temple workers wrote it all down. So writing helped them collect taxes, count food, pay workers, manage storage, plan the future, avoid cheating, avoid confusion. In many ways, they were the world's first accountants, and they were very serious about their clay tablets. Some tablets say things like, 3 sheep for the workers, 2 jars of beer for the builders, 10 baskets of grain received. Very simple, very clear, very boring, but very important. And guess what? All of this record keeping helped cities grow because people could plan, people could organize, people could trade. Writing made large communities possible. Without writing, you can't manage a big city. Writing gave power to the people who could use it. Scribes became important. They went to special schools, they trained for years, they learned signs and symbols by copying them again and again. A scribe was like a computer of the ancient world. Kings needed scribes, temples needed scribes, merchants needed scribes. If you could write, you had a job. You had status. You had respect. Writing changed everything. Laws, taxes, business, history, religion, education. And all of it started with keeping records of food. When writing became beautiful, at first, writing was only for numbers and goods. Very simple, very boring. But slowly, scribes started using writing for stories. They wrote poems. They wrote myths. They wrote about love, dreams, battles, and fears. One of the oldest stories in the world, the Epic of Gilgamesh, came from these early writing systems. So writing finally became beautiful. But the roots of writing? Still bureaucratic. Still practical. Still about counting sheep. Why bureaucrats really needed writing. Let's think about this more deeply. Why did bureaucrats invent writing? Here are the big reasons. Number 1, memory has limits. People forget, but clay tablets don't. Number 2, farming created extra food.